Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lone Oak Farms. It is harvest time. I'll just tab over to our equipment here. Ooh, that's a close-up of the light. I think this has, yeah, a little combine here. This isn't, as I have explained in other videos, this isn't the machinery we had on the farm at all. Oh my goodness. Always something, trying to get it out of the shed. There must be an invisible collision or something I couldn't see. Looks like we have plenty of fuel. We have everything we need. Just taking a gander at everything. Then I believe we can head out to the field. Now, when I worked up on Lone Oak, we wouldn't have just pulled these out of the sheds. We would have spent quite a fair amount of time getting them ready for harvest. Oh, more recently, it'd probably be in the shop over here. Back when I worked for them, it would have been in the shop kind of over there, just on the far end of that long, skinny building. But for now, our machine is ready, raring to go, so we're going to get it going in the field over here and commence our harvest. And I think I had a course play set up on these, so that is going to be helpful. Although maybe before we just get going, it's 6 a.m. in the morning, we would never start harvest this early. So maybe before we do that, I'm just going to let it sit there. I'll let this rest. Maybe I also need to go I want a trailer. And, oh, I don't need a windrower. It's probably too big of a tractor. Maybe if I use this tractor. What do I have for tippers? Well, we got this trailer here. Only this trailer, the auger wagon, is probably much too large for that small combine to get into, so I think I need to purchase a little trailer. We do have this larger one, but it's going to be too large. So let me just go all the way to the end and make sure I don't have one. So yeah, probably should have taken care of purchasing this before doing this episode, but that's all right. Actually, I need to get cash first, right? So let me go borrow a little bit. Oh, they're not going to let me have any more than 12. So let me see, what can I get? I can get this little Brentner. That's 19. You know what? I don't have much choice. I think this is as much as I can get. So why don't I get that? And we will drop this and head to the store. It's too early to harvest anyways. So we'll just take ourselves a nice country drive, get my beacons on, and head on up there. And maybe on the way I'll try to share a little bit. Like I was explaining, before harvest, there would have been quite a bit of work done on those combines. The first order of business would have been simply to get them out of the shed, where they've kind of had their winter slumber, if you will. And the times that I worked up there, they were already pretty old machines. Just to reiterate, kind of when I worked there was 3 machines that they had. There was a 6600 side hill John Deere. I think those were manufactured maybe in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. They also had a 6602 Hillside John Deere combine, and those I think were, yeah, that's basically a 6600 combine with the Hillside unit put on it. I don't think John Deere installed their own Hillsides. It was farmed out, if you will, to another company. Rako, I forget what it was called, that did it, located up in Spokane, Washington, I believe. I better hop in cab, make sure I make it through here. Still a little bit of screen jittering, but I think it's better than it was. Take off. Oop. So I want to be friendly with traffic. And then the third machine that they had was an 8820. And kind of like I mentioned, Hillside and Side Hill, the two of their machines were at Hillside or auto leveling capability. I mean, it's no secret. You look around here and you see all these hills. Having auto leveling was helpful on the combines, as it helped keep the machine level so that it could separate the grass seed from the straw and chaff a little bit more easily than it would have been able to if you had nothing on it. But they did have a flatland machine, the 8820, and that particular machine had no leveling capability, so what they tried to do was to cut their fields when they did their windrowing, so that the hillside machines would handle all the hilly parts of the field, and the 8820, the flatland machine, would handle all the flat areas of the farm. And I can't even remember now. I think this is my 23rd episode here. I can't even remember if I showed pictures of all those. At some point, maybe I'll show the machines they have now. And in a moment here, while we're waiting for the harvest to begin, I'll show you some old pictures that I had from back in the day when I worked up there. And honestly, I look at some of those pictures now, and they are getting long in the tooth, as it were, as am I suppose. You know, I couldn't believe, looking at the dates, just how long ago it was, you know, when I worked up there, but I guess it means I'm just getting old. So, that's just life. So anyway, starting up harvest, we would have pulled the machines out of the shed. You know, there'd have probably been work done on the batteries if they needed charging, you know, just to get them to start up. They would have been fed some fuel, and the oil would have been changed. We would have looked it over top to bottom for parts, to make sure everything was working, that there wasn't any leaks, any oil leaks or anything like that. We would have looked at the integrity of the belts, the chains, and whatever was on the machine that was moving parts, you know, that needed to be fixed. And I almost think back in the day, one of the things that surprised me, I seem to recall in the straw walkers, which, I mean, these were traditional threshing type combines back in the day versus a rotary combines that they have now. But I almost think on the straw walkers, kind of in the back of those, I remember being surprised when one of the things we did, I think there was some wood blocks that they had. Even on a modern combine, there was wooden parts in there, as I recall. There were bushings to kind of hold some of the movement or the action of the swaying of the straw walkers back. I remember, I think we replaced those wooden blocks. They had been kind of grouted out over time. And so I remember one time pulling them out, but that's one of the things we did. But anybody here that knows a little about farming knows that machines require maintenance. And, you know, pulling them out of the shed, we tried to do it far enough ahead of harvest that we had plenty of time to get them all ready to go. Uh, so they wouldn't break down, ideally, during harvest. And I gotta say, it wasn't very often that breakdowns occurred during harvest. I mean, they occasionally happened, but I think usually it was good maintenance, and we tried to be preventative about it, so that problems didn't happen, you know, when you need your machine the most. And it's kind of like in here, you know, if we pull up, oops, that was a wrong key. What I meant was a forecast. You know, if we look at our forecast here, we basically have one day, that's today, to get this combining done. So that means the machine needs to work. Actually, the machine has to work. We depend on it. It can't break down, or we're going to be in trouble. So it's just like back in the day. You have a certain amount of acreage you need to cover, and if your machinery fails on you, you're going to be in a pickle, to get your crop in. So we always tried to make sure it was ready to go. You can just park that right there. I'm gonna let me tab over to this combine. I'm just gonna roll out make sure the unloading auger clears. Well, look at that. I think we have a match. So I'm gonna just park it. I'll head over here. I looked at some pictures that I have, and I do have some, of uh, the morning servicing, if you will. But I didn't have any, and when I say what I really mean is it was my grandmother that took a lot of pictures back in the day. Yeah, here's where we would have done a lot of the servicing. Right here in this yard. This was kind of Grand Central Station. The machines were large enough we couldn't really pull them into the shop, maybe the front end a little bit, but this is where we would have done most of the work on them. Wow, listening to all those birds. Thank you again, Kim G. That was fun putting them in this map. They sound just lovely. But this is where we would have done it, blowing them out, doing all the things we would do to it. And I'm sorry I don't have any pictures, but I do have a couple. And I'll maybe see if I can switch over to those here now so we can look at a couple of those. Um, this one isn't, well, I guess old is relatively speaking. It's almost 20 years old. This may be the last time in the Lone Oak field that they had a crop of wheat in it, cereal grains. I didn't take this one here. I think in this picture, I am, let me try to, I'm probably this person standing right here. They were just opening the field. They took a band across the field. I think they were testing the sieves and everything to make sure the combine was cleaning the wheat up and what have you. But there's the old lone oak tree. I think everybody recognizes that. So it shows occasionally they do rotate in a crop of wheat on their ground. Not very often. Most of the time, it makes more financial sense to grow grass seed, but occasionally they would put wheat in on there. And I'm sure this particular year, as I'm recording this, which is 2022, with the war in Ukraine, they probably wish every single field of theirs was wheat. But that isn't how it works. There's kind of a more panoramic. That's actually, this picture was probably taken before the other one as he headed off across the field. And that particular machine, you look at the dates. That is the old side hill that they had, 6600 side hill. They were using that when I worked up at there, and they were still using it, clear into '03 and beyond. So durable machines that they had, and you take care of those things, and they should last a long time. Although wheat and some of these heavier grains definitely make them tired quicker. The grass seeds on a combine tend to be more light duty, much easier on all the tin work, and just doesn't wear it out quite as bad. Now this is an old picture. I don't remember what year. It would have been in the 90s, and kind of like I mentioned earlier, some of these pictures are coming up on 30 years old this summer. So it might have been in 92 when this was taken. You can see a little difference in the oak tree. I tell you, it changes over time. And I look at it there in this picture, it looks different from the pictures that I sent to Old Bill when he was building the Lone Oak map. And I look at it today, I've been out there the past couple weekends taking pictures, and we had an ice storm kind of in early 2021. That would have been a year ago, and I can tell that the lone oak tree took a beating from that. It's shaped a little bit differently now, and so time. Just like on all of us, as we age and get gray hair or lose hair, we get more fragile or whatever, we change kind of our appearance over time. Well, I don't think that's much different from a tree, so we see there's going to be changes over time. But those three combines that I mentioned, here they are. It was kind of tradition whenever they would be in this field in back of Lone Oak. I think my grandmother took this picture from the house and kind of zoomed in the farmhouse up onto the hill, zooming in. And this would be the 8820 in the back. That's the one my grandfather always drove. It was the best machine. And then these would have been one of these. I think this one here is a 6602 hillside, and this one is the 6600 side hill. Just for kicks, they would do a picture like this to have um, something to look at to reminisce the harvest. This one's definitely coming up on 20 or 30 years old. My goodness, I can't even do my math. So, I mean, here's those same three machines all in a row. This was a typical harvest morning ritual, if you will. We'd bring the pickup out, and you can see here there's a fuel tank in the back full of diesel. It wasn't enough to fill all the machines, so we'd have to take another run at it. But so there was fueling up, there was greasing to do, all the moving parts. And you look in the manual, there's all kinds of stipulations on there. This particular, they called them grease zerks, Zerk. I think that's what they're called. Some of them would be what would be called a 10-hour service. So every 10 hours, you'd have to put a couple shots of grease in it. Basically, those would be the daily ones, if you will. And then there'd be others that would be a longer service, maybe a 50-hour, maybe a 100-hour. I forget all the stipulations that they had. And obviously, the more moving the parts did, and the more stressful of an environment that they did, the more likely it was you'd have to grease it. And so I remember wandering around these combines and in the morning looking for all these little grease zerks wherever there was a shaft or a bearing, something where grease was needed. And I think they've done better on more modern machines, maybe with more sealed bearings, what they call, where you don't have to lubricate them, or they will put the Zerks in stacks and they will run these little hoses from the stack over to where the grease is needed. So, in other words, you look for the stack and then you squirt grease, into several of them all kind of in one area. Makes it a whole lot more convenient. But I tell you, in these old machines, you'd be wandering all over and have to get into some of the strangest positions to try to, put it in there. And sometimes, if it was a particular shaft or a knuckle, if you will, that connected two shafts, and you might have to turn it a certain way just to get that silly thing in there to try to lubricate the joint. So just one of the things that you did. And you see the guys here, there's in the back of the pickup, there was an air compressor. This is my cousin here. He was fond of wearing a hat without a bill that whole summer. I don't know why he was doing that. These are both my uncles. They were just like I was, much younger men back then, and they're now the current owners of the Lone Oak Farms. My grandfather's passed away, so they kind of are carrying on his legacy, if you will. But what they're doing here is they're blowing out the radiator and blowing off the engine, so they get all the straw and particulate matter out of there that kind of would blow in from the previous day or what have you, to kind of get it out of there so it would be smooth running, less likely for fire, that kind of thing. I see he has a bucket here. I'm not sure what he's doing. I don't know that they would have changed the oil in the field. It could be he's checking some other fluid, or yeah, I just don't know what's in that particular bucket. But these are very common things. Another thing that they would do is any of the air filters they would pull out and blow out, sometimes involving the air conditioner filter up here. In the hot sunshine, when you're in a machine, I mean, the air conditioner is a pretty precious piece of equipment, and you wanted to take care of it. Otherwise, I mean, I remember one season where the air conditioner went out on, I think it was an 8820, and it was just miserable in there. You couldn't go more than around, and you had to get out and kind of cool off, if you will. And you couldn't just leave the door open. There was a lot of dust, and you'd be in there sweating like crazy, and all the dust would be coming in. That wasn't really a workable solution either. But if you're going to be behind glass, you basically have to have air conditioning to help. And it's always interesting reading the operators' manuals of these machines because they also had the capability of heat. And we never used them in a situation, where you needed the heat. So I don't even know if the heaters worked. Probably was more for people that would buy them in the Midwest or corn country, where they would be harvesting potentially in cold situations or other areas. So this was the quote, nice farm truck that we had back in the day. And oh man, I just think of a story on this. I'll save it for another time. Let's just say I gave this particular truck a minor facial adjustment, if you will, one time while I was driving it. So, but I won't embarrass myself about that now. So that was kind of the morning servicing, if you will. Let me look at a couple other pictures here. That's another one up by the oak tree. That's kind of leading up. Um, Not sure what this dirt strip is here, if that's kind of where the water went down the hill. Sometimes there was difficulty with that. You look at this picture, it's harvest season up top, but there's this green grass right here. This would have been a spring planting. Oftentimes, a fine fescue would get planted in the spring, so it'd be barely established by the time summer came. But you wouldn't harvest it the first year. So this would be harvested the following summer. All right, one more with a tree in the middle. Oh, good grief. I picked more than I intended. And these pictures, I mean, they're not the best quality. These were scanned from the old style pictures, if you will. So this is 8820. This is from a different year, I'm pretty sure. It's in the lone oak tree would be off to the left here in the picture, if you will. This is 8820, so they kept it on the flatter ground. Well, flat being relatively speaking, you can see there's a hill back here. But that's why it wouldn't be over on the hill, where the lone oak tree was. That's my uncle driving. And yeah, this here I think was called Rebel Junior Tall Fescue. They had it up there for a couple of years. I enjoyed the seed. It was nice and easy to work with in the machines. So that's another angle. Um, this is a portable housing unit. My uncle used to have his family in there before he moved into the main house. I think the since have removed it, so it's no longer there. So you won't see it in the Farming Simulator 17 version of the Lone Oak map. That's the 8020 and Lone Oak tree in the background. There's another one of the hillside machines kind of doing what they do over on the hill. I'm always amazed when I look at pictures of this because it just doesn't do the hill justice. It is really a lot steeper than it appears in here. Uh, but but yeah, this is just kind of the angle that it's at. It appears this picture was taken in '99, so a little bit more recent. That would have been just before that wheat crop picture. Another one of the oak tree up there, combine in the foreground. Coming across the hill. Yeah, the pictures I've taken when I've gone out there, and I'll show some of them at some point. I take them on my cell phone, and it has virtually zero ability to zoom and have it look anywhere halfway decent. This is a rock, one of the field rocks. This isn't in the lone oak tree field. This is on another one of their properties. It isn't really a trick camera shot. There really is a rock that huge. It's one of those that's so big in the field, they don't, it's too big to move. Namely because I don't think they can find the bottom of it. I mean, it isn't just a rock in the hill. The rock is the hill. So to remove it would, come at significant cost. So I think it's just best that they farm around it. And that's no different today. Matter of fact, I pretty well know where this rock is. There's several of them just like it, and they're still there. They're probably going to be there when I'm dead and gone. I just don't think it's worth it to remove it. Just one of those things to deal with in these particular hills. There's just rocks everywhere. This is what we used. I think I've mentioned this before in the harvest. Back then, for whatever reason, they didn't use a tractor and a chaser. They just parked the trucks somewhere where the combines could get to them reasonably close. And then the combine, when it was full, you would just leave the windrow and you would come and empty into the truck. And maybe some of you will recall in one of the earlier videos, this Ford truck, that was one of my grandpa's pride and joys. It had his name and business company name on the side. Well, here it is. I mean, previously I think we saw it hauling hay bales in one of the earlier episodes. Here it is with a full-on racks hauling seed. And you'll see, I mean, there are a lot more, I don't even know how to put it, that sounds kind, but it's a lot more professional how they do it up there now. You look at this tarp along here. This is kind of a homemade assembly, and farmers are famous for doing this, right? You know, where they kind of with whatever they have at their disposal, they will use to accomplish a particular task. Well, here, I mean, these seeds can be pretty light and fluffy after the combine puts them in, so they wanted a tarp to make sure they could hold them in. Well, this is I think it's a PVC pipe down the middle of this, and it's wrapped around this blue tarp here. And so, yeah, when the truck was full, we would drive it forward a little bit to kind of shake the seed down in there. Nothing much. You didn't want it flying out. And then we would get up on top and roll that thing over. And actually, this roller was an improvement over what we had previously. I think previously we would unroll it from the front here and then take it back. And tarps are just a pain in the neck. And now with what they have, I think the trucks are set up better with the tarps, and it's pretty easy to close the top off. But back then, it was a little bit more of an ordeal to take care of it. But this is what we used to haul seed, and the combine just came up and put it in directly. One more of them in the field, and you can see they're already starting to bale in here. Not sure if there was many more of that or if they kept doing it. I mean, usually they waited till they were done harvesting the field, but obviously there they got started. And that's kind of all that I have for pictures for at the moment. So maybe we'll go back to in game, and we're not much further along, but maybe what I could at least do is get the course set up. We want to do field work, and we'll just load. Since we windrowed it, it's field 35. We're going to have this guy follow the very same windrows that we cut. So it'll go in the same order. So I'm going to crank this up. Yeah, I love the animation on this. Like I say, it's a little bit early, but I think we'll get going on it because we want to be able to get this done. Yeah, so behind it's dropping a straw windrow. I'll stay in cab here just for a little bit. So we're going to end up baling this, but it's right now it's harvesting, and you'll see. We'll just get him going. It's harvesting seeds over here. You see them gathering in the tank. That's kind of what the symbol is. And we'll see kind of what it looks like when he's done. So now I'm going to go back to my tractor, and I probably need to give him somewhat of a straight course for how he approaches the field. Oh boy, this is going to be challenging. Probably if I come to this point here, I think he would see most of the field. So I'm gonna just set it up kind of like so, and we'll make a course to haul it into the not the barn, but the storage bins, if you will. Trying to stay all prim and proper and be on the roads here. Back in the day, we probably would have just run over the grass and missed the guy wire on the pole. Pull through here. Hopefully that's close enough. And then we'll come back around and on back out to the field. I need to complete the loop. I don't think I do. I just want to make sure he's close enough to gather whatever he needs. So we're going to call our course 35 Combi. Alright, I think, yeah, empty combine and offload. Yeah, we don't have another trailer at the moment, so we're gonna just have him haul to storage. I believe that is this. So let me find the combine on... There we go. Now he's going to drive over the windows. This would have been a major no-no for us to do back in the day. But what can I say? It's horseplay, right? So I think we'll forgive it. I think it has pathfinding on, but it sees all of this area out here as cut. So, in other words, to the horseplay, it sees this as already harvested. Whereas what we're actually doing is harvesting it. Now, is it smart enough to... Oh, look at that. Congratulations, Courseplay. Now, that's a little tight. Now he's putting grass seed in the trailer. There's a lone oak tree in the backyard. So we've started our grass seed harvest, and you know what? I think we're already at half an hour in the video, so I'm gonna just call these there, and this guy will pursue her during harvest and keep her going. So thank you all for watching and coming to visit Lone Oak Farm. Hope you have a great day, whatever you're doing, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.